The beginning of the end. Once upon a time there was a little engine called Edward. He lived on a big railway that stretched from coast to coast. The railway was filled with engines. There were little engines who scurried about the yards and sidings, and great big engines who heaved heavy trains from town to town. But this story, our story, is all about Edward. Edward wasn't the biggest engine, and certainly wasn't the strongest, but he still wanted to be really useful. Early one day, he had just finished his morning out with the tool van, and came to tell the signalman that the line was clear. "It's cold this morning, isn't it?" Edward told the shunter as he uncoupled him from the train. "What's this, Edward? Complaining about a little chill in the air?" sneezed the red engine. "Honestly, I don't know why the controller keeps you on." "Because I can go anywhere and do anything," explained Edward. "You don't even have a proper shed," retorted the engine, "and that's because you're too small to pull proper trains and too big for anything else." "We're the same size." "Aha! But I've got a proper job. Coaches, trucks, I move all sorts." "Where have you been?" "Out with the workmen. Dear, oh dear, what a mess." "Well," explained Edward, "this morning I've fixed a broken rail so the trains can run." "What have you done?" "I," stammered the red engine, "I have taken on coal, ready for the many, many trains I will later be delivering." "All right, I see," said Edward gravely, and moved out of the yard. "I'll be busier than you are," called the engine. "It's the last trains before Christmas. They're the worst." Edward went to work at the docks. He shunted some trucks along the quay, and then looked at the fishermen's boats beginning to leave their little piers. Following a small boat with his eyes, Edward noticed the big rolling bridge that connected the mainland to the Island of Sodor. He stared at it. He had always heard rumors about what a fine railway they were building over there. His thoughts were interrupted when a shunting engine banged some trucks near him. Before he noticed it, it was dark, and the docks were bustling with people and passengers who had just got home for the celebrations. A group of important-looking men caught his eye. They were talking to the harbour master. "The mechanism on the railway bridge is locked up," he announced, "so our boat can't get to the harbour. There's nothing I can do." Edward whistled loudly, and everyone gave their attention to the little engine. "Well," he said, "if you need to get to Sodor, I might be able to help." Finding spare coaches on a busy railway is no easy task, and it certainly doesn't become easier at Christmas time. All the trains were long and packed. Edward looked in every siding and every station to find some coaches. Coaches, where do you find coaches on Christmas Eve? He wondered. Then he saw the red engine from before pulling his old coaches to the big yard. He decided to follow. Edward snuck in the coach siding and was quickly coupled to the line of coaches that the engine had just brought. He began to pull them away and felt them a lot heavier than he expected. Then, "Oi!" called a voice. "Who's that?" Edward asked, startled. "It's me, of course." It was the red engine. "What? But where? I'm at the other end of the train." "But what are you doing there?" questioned Edward. "Do you sleep with your coaches?" Yes, hesitated the engine. "And that's a good thing I do with all these carriage thieves about." "I'm not a carriage thief," protested Edward. "I'm taking a train." "Not this train, you're not. They're mine." "There aren't any other coaches." "That's not true," said the engine, eyeing the tool van. After a few minutes, Edward came back into the station with the tool van coupled behind him. He was sorry, but the passengers were just glad to make it home on time. The guard's whistle blew, the green flag waved, and Edward set off. He travelled in the snowy countryside. His fire's light shone on the snow around, and the smoke from his funnel played with the wind all the way up to the sky. Before long, the rolling bridge was in sight. The landscape around the train looked to have popped out straight from a painting. Before long, they reached the Sodor terminus. The passengers were very grateful. They went and shook hands with Edward's driver and fireman, and thanked Edward for the smooth ride. "Fine piece of work," said the stout gentleman in a top hat. "I'm very grateful you managed to get us all home. I thought we'd be stuck on the mainland for Christmas." It's not every day I accept trespassers on my railway, of course, but your railway? Edward asked. He was confused. Say no more, continued the gentleman. You must be tired, Edward, sir. Edward, please go to the sheds and have a well-deserved rest. Make yourself at home. So Edward went to the big shed. He was tired, but very, very happy for the journey. As his boiler cooled down, he looked at the snow falling from inside the warm shed and slowly drifted off to sleep, tired but very, very grateful.